Okay, we're going to have some fun today with another one of the fun financial functions that are built into Excel. And that function is going to be the present value function. So instead of me just telling you what the present value function does, how about we jump in and do something a little different? And I give you one of many different scenarios that you could use the present value function for. So let's just look to the future. Let's say you graduate from Butler University, you get an awesome job, and you are a financial planner. You have a client that's currently 60 years old, and he knows that when he retires at the age of 65, he'd like to buy himself a boat. Let's say a boat like this one. So, in your initial meeting to figure out his financial plan to make sure he's got enough money saved to get this boat, he tells you the boat costs $175,000, right? Purchase price $175,000, okay? His plan to you is to give you one lump sum investment, similar to a savings bond. So, if you're familiar with savings bonds, if you're not familiar with savings bonds, let me remind you of how they work. Sometimes you get them as gifts or graduation presents. So, let's say you go to a bank and you buy a US savings bond. Now, let's go with the basics. We talked about it before. Why do banks give loans? Banks give loans to make money. Okay. And the return on investment for them comes in the interest earned. Well, when you go to the bank, you actually earn interest on U.S. savings bonds. Why? Because basically you are giving the United States government a loan. Now, it is a very, very safe loan. It is not a really high yield investment because it's pretty secured. You're pretty much guaranteed you're going to get the value of that back. But you are still loaning the U.S. government money, which means that there is an interest rate or an investment return that comes from that. Okay. Now, the trick with the U.S. savings bond is you don't have the ability to continue to add to it. So if I walk into Chase Bank today and purchase or invest in a U.S. savings bond worth $500, I'm going to pay them $500 right then, and I will not have the ability to add additional money to it throughout the lifetime of the savings bond. So next month, I can't go and put another $25 in or another $50 in. It's just $500 lump sum. And at the end, I will get compound interest returned upon that. Okay. So in this particular case, what we're going to do is we're going to do something similar. Your client, Ben, is going to give you one lump sum dollar amount. You're going to invest that, and in 5 years, your goal is to grow it to $175,000. So that's how much money we need to have back in order to figure out how much that is, because you're going to have to tell Ben how much money you need up front in order to make this happen. So in order to do that, we're going to have to figure out in reverse, well, $175,000 5 years from now at 2.5% interest discounted back, how much is that in 2017? So if this is $175,000 in 2022, what is this with this particular interest rate over 5 years worth in 2017? So instead of with future value working forward, with present value, we're working backwards. We're going to figure out what the current value of your future earnings are going to be. Now that's a mouthful, it takes a little bit of practice, but it is very cool. And I've got several different problems that you can try to work with this. So let's talk about how to use the present value function. So here's our insert function box, right? So the good news with present value, much like all financial functions, is if you've learned one, you've kind of learned them all. The arguments that you use for future value are very similar to the arguments that you use for the payment function, which are very similar to the arguments you use for the present value function, so on and so forth. So the first argument that is absolutely required here is the rate argument. Now, we've talked about the rate argument several times. So whenever you see the word rate, you have to start thinking periodic interest rate or the rate per period, okay? Which in this case, we're going to do some discounting, but we'll make that work, okay? The second argument that is absolutely required is NPER, which stands for total number of payment periods, total number of periods, all right? Just like future value. The third argument, which is required, is the amount that you are investing per period, right? The payment made each period. Now, the trick with this is, like I mentioned before, you're actually not making additional payments per period, but you still have to put something in here, and I'll show you that. Then the other two arguments, which are optional, are future value and type, which we will actually use both of these in this particular problem. So with that little background, let's just go for it. Okay. So again, what's the question? How much money do I need to invest today at a 2.5% rate of return over 5 years in order to have $175,000? A very, very real business-oriented question. Okay. So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to use the present value function. So we're going to jump in. We're going to go PV, and we're going to take that 2.5%, and we're going to discount that and make that a monthly percentage rate. Okay. Now, this is tricky with the interest rate here. It depends. When you go in and negotiate your investment, there are several different ways that you can earn interest. I'm just going to say that you're earning monthly interest here, although there are really many different ways that you can go in and do that. So for now, we'll convert that to a monthly interest rate. So that's what we've been doing for most of the class. But just keep that in mind. When you get out in the real world, it could be different. Okay. Just keep that in the back of your mind. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to plug in our NPER, total number of payment periods, right? Now we could just type in a number here, but isn't it easier to just let Excel do the math for you? Okay. We're going to advance one more time, and now we plug in the payment. So I'm going to pause for a second and let you tell me, even though I can't see you, you think about it for a second, and you tell me what you think the payment should be here. Here we go. I'm going to count to 5. Well, I hope you didn't say $175,000. Okay. Actually, the payment amount, remember, it's the payment that's being made per period. Well, since you're investing everything up front, the payment that you're making per period is actually a big fat 0. There isn't one. Okay. And what you do need to do is in the next argument, which you don't always use, you're going to plug in a future value amount. So here's the deal. Here's what we're telling Excel. We're saying that we need to have a future value of $175,000 here. So because we know how much we need to have in 5 years, we can just plug that in. It's 175,000, and we're going to use a type of 0 because it doesn't specify beginning or end. And at this point, it's going to tell you 457.04. So here's what that means. Okay, that means today, in 2017, if you write a check to your investment guy for $154,457 and some change at a 2.5% annual rate of return over 5 years, you will have $175,000. Now that is very similar to what you could do with the future value function, except we are working in reverse to figure out how much money you need to have today to have $175,000 in 2022, 5 years from now. Now, with the future value function, it would go a different way. Okay, it would say, well, if I invest this much today, how much will I have in the future? Versus this is how much I want in the future. How much do I need to invest today? So they're kind of like cousins, future value and present value. It's really, really cool. I really enjoy it. So just to keep going with it, since this is going so smoothly, how about we do one more? And I like this one because it's a different application of the same thing. So let's talk an additional kind of investment. Let's talk about vending machines. Vending machines are actually a really interesting kind of investment because businesses don't own them. Vending machines are high volume devices, and hopefully you learn in other classes in the College of Business that buying something that's a high yield, high volume device doesn't always work out because they burn out so quickly. There's a lot of maintenance. So when things like copy machines, industrial printers, lawn care equipment for big things like college campuses, and vending machines, you actually rent them from vending companies. You lease them, and the vending company fills it up. You pay the vending company a fee. Whatever comes out of that machine belongs to you. So let's say that you are lucky enough to have leased a vending machine in a very high volume area. Let's say Hinkle Fieldhouse. So one of those cool Pepsi machines in Hinkle Fieldhouse will say that every time there's a game, it sells out. So at the end of the month, when that vending machine is completely empty, it generates $1,000 in capital. Like so. Okay. So when you go and open up that machine, you pull out $1,000. Now, as a member of the College of Business, you're pretty smart, right? So you know what to do with this money. You're going to take it and you're going to invest it. So you take it and you put it in an interest earning savings account that earns 2.75% interest. Now, if you're a finance major, you're probably thinking that's pretty high for a savings account. Answer is it's true, but that makes it more interesting, making it a number that's that high. Okay. And the last thing we're going to say is, let's say that your lease is for 6 years. Okay. So you're making $1,000 a month. You're getting 2.75% annual interest return on that $1,000 per month that you're investing, and you can do that for 6 years. Now that's pretty cool. Okay. And you know from this, you could actually go through and figure out the future value here if you really wanted to, couldn't you? So I could go in here and I could take, well, let's not do it there. Let's do it 1 over. I could go in, I could jump here, I could say 2.75 divided by 12, take my number of years, multiplied by 12, plug in my payment amount, and it's going to tell me that through the lifetime of my loan, in 6 years, I'm going to have $78,000. Okay? See, here's the trick with that, though. That's $78,000 6 years from now. But what is that $78,000 worth now? Have you earned it yet? No. But if you have a guaranteed demand, meaning that every time there's a game that you sell out that machine, that means you're gonna earn it. It's a guaranteed income. So even though it's worth $78,000 in the future, is it worth $78,000 today? The answer is no. Now, here are some things that you need to remember. Hopefully, you've learned about the time value of money, right? $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow. Okay? So, just to put that in perspective, if you had $1 million in 1975, you were probably set for life. If you have $1 million in 2017, life's still good, but you're probably still working, right? Because you could blow through that money pretty quickly. It's just things are different now. Gas is more expensive. The world is more expensive. It's just a different thing. Okay? So keep this in mind. Here's something to think about. So what if I came through as an investor and I gave you a solid investment opportunity? I come to you and say, I know that your lease is up in 6 years. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pay you $70,000 right now for you to sign your lease over to me. Okay? Now, is $70,000 less than $78,000? It is, but remember the time value of money, right? So $70,000 today is worth more than $70,000 even tomorrow, but let alone 6 years from now. So now you really have to start thinking, right? This is a really interesting problem because remember, $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow, if nothing else, in just the economic opportunity cost. So before you would shoot down this kind of thing, you would have to really analyze your investment. And that's where this analytics and this business decision-making stuff really starts to come in, right? Because you got to think about a lot. You have to think about your time, the time it takes to go to the vending machine, open it up, take the money out, put it in the bank. You have to think about the gas that you use to go to the bank, the car that you drive to take it to the bank. You have to think about the lease value that you pay to have the lease inside Hinkle Fieldhouse. All of those things factor in this decision. But most importantly, you have to figure out what $78,183.49 6 years from now in 2023 is worth today. Because you can't compare future value money to money that's in hand. This is $70,000 in your pocket. This is $78,000 6 years from now. That's not comparable. You can't compare them. Okay? So you know what you're going to do? You're going to figure out what this $78,183.49 is worth in 2017. Even though you don't have it, you can still figure out what the current value of your future earnings would be. And the present value function is a great way to do that. All right. So let's just jump over. I'll keep my value right there. And we'll jump over down here and we'll just say present value. So let's solve this one. I love this problem too. This is one of my favorites. So we're going to go present value. So we're going to take our rate. We're going to adjust that to monthly like we've been doing. We're going to take our years. We're going to make sure to reflect the total number of periods in those years. Now, this is what's different from the problem before. So in the prior problem that we did, you did not have a payment amount. There was no periodic payment. It was a one-time investment similar to a U.S. savings bond. But this one is different. Every month, when you empty out that machine after a big Bulldogs victory, what's going to happen? You're going to have $1,000 that you're putting in the bank. Now, quick reminder, why is that $1,000 negative? That's because it's it's an accounting outflow. That's money that's coming out of that vending machine, which is holding it in your hand, going into an investment account that you're not going to get for an X amount of years. Does it mean that you don't have that $1,000? No. It's just an outflow into an inflow. Okay? So that's a negative $1,000. And at this point, we can close this bad boy off, and we get 66,303.81. So there's several things to take away from this. Okay? Boom. Boom. Number one, the future value of this investment right here, the future value is $78,183.49. $78,183.49 at 2.75% interest in 2017 is worth $66,303.81. Okay, pretty interesting, right? So if today, and keep in mind, you have not earned any money on this investment. If today you are offered $70,000 for your investment, you're going to look at that and go, that's a great deal. I'm making more than my money. I would only make $78,183.49 over 6 years. Instead, I'm going to get $70,000 now. That $78,183 in today's dollars is worth $66,303.81. So not only are you making your original profit, you're making more than you would if you kept it over 6 years, not even including the opportunity cost. So in this particular case, good deal, you take that deal. Okay? So I hope this little brush-in or this little introduction into present value has really helped to get you jump-started into finance in Excel. As always, I have several practice problems for you to play around with that are available for you on Moodle. So please read through the present value function in the book. Please check out the financial functions worksheet. And on your own time, if you got time, try some of these additional practice problems and see how it goes. Until then, as always, got any questions, you need any help, give me a call, shoot me an email, send me a text, whatever you can do, just stop by my office. I would love to see you, and I will see you back in our next video, which deals with amortization.